Well, welcome back to another episode of XM.com's Special Editions with Peter McGuire. Mate, we've covered plenty of territory already this year. We're still in the early months, but there's a lot going on. Brief me, what are the key commodities doing? What's happening in the FX world? And what are the signals?
Where we are? Well, I think good morning, Will, and a couple of things. First off, we've had a really strong rally to the upside as far as currencies against that US dollar. So Aussie dollar, Kiwi dollar, and the British pound. The cables absolutely shot the lights out at a 140. So we've been talking about that for the last matter of weeks, and for our traders that were paying attention, they would have done very, very nicely out of it.
Okay, so let's talk about the dollar realigning with US fundamentals. What does it mean? Is this no longer a mirror reflection of stocks? What does it all mean?
Well, you know, when we're looking at that US fundamentals, we're conscious as far as 2020 wasn't a normal year. So we've got really negative interest rates when you strip out inflation, and we've had a market to the moon. Equity markets, property markets, it's all been one-way traffic. So are we at the end of that cycle as far as that exuberance, or is there more upside left? Or is it going to be a stampede in a matter of months as far as the exits? So bond yields are starting to creep up. Interest rates are still hanging back a little bit, but the reality of the matter is I feel as though that there's, again, uncertainty leading into 21.
Okay, well, this chart doesn't really show you a lot of uncertainty. I mean, if we look at the S&P 500 there,
True.
I mean, it's
one-way
still
traffic.
Outperforming. I mean, the US dollar index, well, it's not super bad either. It's still tracking there at a pretty reasonable high.
Yeah.
Despite looking like it's travelling horizontally. I mean, is there any negative correlation here?
Not necessarily. I've only seen that breakout as far as in the last month that the correlation has started to certainly go in separate directions. That US dollar sitting at that 90 level will really, 90.5 is where the money is. That's the sweet spot. As far as equities, they've continued to rally, and this year's been an incredible start.
Hasn't it been? 6 weeks. Presidential election, transfer of power, Biden's in, he's off and running, US is rejoining a lot of the really significant global sort of groups, back into the Paris, looking at health, looking at environment, looking at that whole at governance. We're talking really about a country that's stepping back up and wants to play a part in the world's leadership.
Yeah, true. So let's see how it rolls, and there's still, I think, opportunity in the stock market, but you've just got to be conscious which sector that you want to participate in.
Well, and sentiment's important, right? And I think if we're looking at around the market this morning in news headlines, you've got you're very much hitting that 500,000 death number in US at the moment as a result of COVID. And so, there may well be some negative sentiment to play out there as they come, or they may overthrow that by actually rolling this vaccine process out and driving it, delivering.
Depends which camp you want to believe in.
There's plenty happening. All right, so let's take a look at the next chart here. We've got the UK leading, but the US is not too far ahead of the Eurozone in terms of vaccination doses administered per 100 inhabitants.
Yep, exactly right.
China, surprisingly, I wouldn't have thought China to be so low.
Yeah, it originates there, and they haven't been on the front foot as far as vaccination. So anyway, let's see where it rolls again and what that momentum, if it can, we're starting to roll that out and across Australia as of today. New Zealand similar. So it's all hopefully onward and upward as far as people being healthy and happy over 21.
And look, on that chart just briefly, I mean, UK is the outperformer there. I mean, admittedly, they probably started a little before some of the guys there and the other countries, so they perhaps have that advantage. But Pfizer, AstraZeneca, Moderna, any of the other names you can think of off the top of your head that are really.
Did you put one out, Will Canty's pharmaceuticals?
I haven't got a vaccination just yet, but I have been speaking to my local pharmacist about it.
Well, that's good. Maybe you should make one up.
Mate,
seems to be everyone else has.
Mate, everybody else has too. I mean, Putin seems to be the one to go for, right? Is that
maybe? I don't know. Maybe it is.
All right. Well, we touched on New Zealand, and this particular chart. I think it looks interesting. You saw a pretty big dive there on the GDP growth there, in 2020. But the chart suggests that it's perhaps the confidence is coming back, so we might see a reversal.
Absolutely. It's been very, very strong over the last couple of months, New Zealand and its growth numbers, and we've got some meetings over the next matter of days. New Zealand dollars well bid up. The storyline severe lockdowns and in turn, contain the virus. So that's played well for New Zealand, and let's see how the next, again, 3 to 6 months play international tourism and all of those factors going into build an economy.
Well, there's plenty happening in New Zealand, and it would be remiss of me, having just come off the yacht track over the weekend, to not talk about the America's Cup. The Louis Vuitton's going through at the moment. The Italians have stepped up, and they look like they're going to put away their rivals and competitors in the English, so the British don't look too good. And so that would mean that they would go through to actually contest the Cup against the Kiwis. So again, good times in New Zealand.
Well, hopefully, they let them in, and everyone's healthy and happy.
Rolling it forward, look, the problem with New Zealand, of course, if you're too positive down there, the Reserve Bank turns around and says, well, actually, that's not good enough, mate. Come on, slow down. Where's your frown? Yeah. So look, this chart kind of suggests that it does look pretty good. Well, yes, and they've had as it can show there, a very, very solid move as far as that Kiwi dollar. But the US has been one-way traffic really since April last year. So as it continued to dive, all the other currencies certainly were bid up strongly. Do we see a 75 handle as far as New Zealand dollar? Possible. Do we see an 82 handle in Australia? Possible. So that's where we're looking at the moment, and it's all about the big picture. All right, markets and QE, Pete, what's the call? Well, we've got Senate and Wednesday and Thursday. We've got 2 presentations by Fed Chair Powell this week, so I'm keeping an eye on those. I'm not expecting any real surprises, and let's see as far as non-farm payrolls at the start of March, how all of that works over that Christmas/January period, the cold coming into America. So at the present time, I'm just looking at if the stock market can continue to track north, and what's going on as far as any form of QE or bond purchases or any combination of whatever stimulus that the Fed identify and want to implement. All right. So we're talking about the cable earlier in the program. We're talking about this transforming into a risk sentiment proxy. I mean, what does that mean? Well, the pound has been, and that's the cable is the nickname for the British pound against the US dollar, and that cable had been strongly bid up. Well, it's it's over 140 now. And we've tracked this all the way through to the 128s, the 130s. And when you're putting your mind back here, it's moved tremendously. You've had Brexit, a number of other key issues, but really since the start of November, it's been onward and upward from 130 to 140. So it's strongly bid, traders delight. They've really had a joyful Christmas and New Year if you've been trading the British pound. Just bull. Just, go out and every day sit on the banana chair somewhere and just watch it increase. So it's been an almighty trade, and I don't know if the wind is going to be taken out of its sails in the near term, but that's what trading's all about, seeking opportunity and then enjoying the run. Well, if we take a look at this, I mean, you've got the pound in blue there, and you've got the S&P 500
they're mirror image, lockstep nearly.
They're in lockstep, and so, mate, there's plenty of runway there that someone's driven since October, and we're just coming at the end of February. That's right, and summer here in Sydney. Congratulations about your sailing on the weekend. That was an almighty effort. And the other thing, if you're thinking about what crude oil, if you put that in crude oil and you mirror that over that chart or add that as another leg, say in red or green, and that's what traders need to do, their own homework. You include crude oil. It's had a move of 55% since really the middle of October. So it's been dramatic move to the upside again. So all of the markets have been very strongly bid up. A lot of them have been, and that's where profitability has been outstanding for traders. Well, if we talk segments for a minute, I mean, you touched on some pricing earlier for gold, for nickel, for silver and copper. I mean, let's not forget uranium, once again, lithium, again, nickel, the rare earths, most of the rare earths are all running. Big demand picture. And we were looking at charts just this morning that showed that, not unlike this graph here, the trajectory since around December was been one-way traffic. One-way traffic. Yeah. So that comes down to the rare earth policies as far as China, and you're talking as armaments and batteries and
missile systems and so on, that rare earths is such
supply chains.
Supply chains, yes. And so if that cuts that out, you're looking at other producers in America looking as far as strategic reserves to work with suppliers to make sure that they are not left out.
Well, and they can be supplied.
Yeah, that they can be supplied, because China controls a great portion of the world's, and as far as the US and other nations, and they're our allies, we need to be conscious of that.
All right, fast minute, Pete. Let's wrap this up. So this week we can expect data on who.
British, American, and Japanese. We've got a fair bit of data coming out. We've got Fed Chair Powell Wednesday, Thursday, two presentations. We've got the Kiwis. What are they doing as far as their stimulus and activating and keeping that currency and an economy really ticking along well. Gold's been a flat spot, but very volatile this month. Crude oil's backing back a little bit from those peaks, and I think it's a good time to look at other markets and make a dollar, and that's what trading's all about, Will.
Well, Pete, thanks for being here. Thanks for the briefing. Let's knuckle off and watch the vaccinations roll out again over the week in most countries, including Australia.
Thank you, Will. Look forward to seeing you next week, brother.